Like to bring the meeting to order, begin the council meeting. Thank you. Start with roll call.
Gravone?
Here.
Sudenbach?
Here.
Donaldson?
Here.
Caps? Weirs?
Here.
Isbell?
Here. Everybody present? I'd like everybody to stand, please. Face the flag, and Robert, would you lead us in the pledge of allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you remain standing, please, John Weirs, if you would please lead us in prayer.
Dear Lord, be with all of us tonight as we try and navigate ourselves through city issues and help us to make the right choices. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, sticking to the agenda. I would like to start with the approval of the minutes.
Motion to approve the February 24th, 2025 meeting minutes as presented.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Clerk's report.
We had a total income of $244,000. Total vouchers were $65,000. Public safety's up to actually 89. The deposit went in on March 3rd. Any questions?
Questions, council?
Motion to approve the vouchers in the amount of $65,839.56.
I'll second.
Conversation? All in favor?
Aye.
Passed. Okay, at this particular time, I request a 10-minute executive session regarding new hire, a non-elected employee, a new hire for the city.
Motion to move into a personnel executive session for 10 minutes, returning at 6:12 p.m.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn us to executive session. meeting back to order. Returned from executive session with no action taken. With that, we have I request a motion from the council to enter into a employment agreement with Paige Mueller to start training as our new building and codes administrator. Okay, if everyone hadn't heard, which I doubt that's not the case from this rumor mill, but I'm guessing everyone knows that she's retiring next month. Okay, so apparently she discussed it last year, and apparently the time is now. Gives us the opportunity to bring Paige in at $16 an hour with full benefits. She could arrive on the 17th, which gives us a good month to train her with Jenny before Jenny actually is gone. And outside of that, with the same probationary, 90-day probationary period, and at the end of 2025, we ought to do an evaluation.
I motion that we allow the mayor to enter into an agreement with Paige Mueller to fill the soon vacating permit and code. Thanks, Connie. At starting at $16 an hour with a review in 90 days and an end of year review.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. I would also, congratulations, Paige. I would also like to let everyone know we won't be swearing her in tonight. When she arrives on the 17th, as soon as her feet hit the floor, we'll swear her in. She's currently employed with Labette Bank, which holds accounts of ours. So it'd be a conflict of interest for her to work with the bank and have executive authority as a department administrator at the same time. So we'll also do a formal swear-in at the first meeting of the month, next month. Okay, so, which also we need to do, we never got that done, but we also need to do for Lisa Beecraft. We never done a formal swear-in. Her feet hit the floor, we swore her in to do her work. So we'll get that taken care of. Okay. Sewer report. I don't know, we do have a sewer report. We have some monthly usages for the POA buildings, but we do not have a Mike Page report. Oh, everyone. Okay. Checks the lagoons on a regular basis because he has to manually transfer water. He done 5 locates. He's installed a grinder pump, changed out grinder pump, had to install electric timer relay for the low pressure sewer lift station. Had to haul some rock. If anybody wasn't aware, the ramp and the road collapsed up there. That was pretty much as if that wasn't a busy enough month. So that would be Mike's report. Council have any questions? That's about what I had to give you. Okay, building report. Does anybody see Steve's building report? Anybody have any questions? Okay, let's move to there's a nuisance report section in there. Public safety, police department. Corey?
You have my report. Anything else to add to it? Some questions?
Council, do you have any questions? Okay, very good. Fire report, Jeremy?
Linn Valley had 7 EMS assistants.
Nope, quick, I'm sorry. Council have any questions for Jeremy? We're streamlining reports tonight. We don't have any questions.
I have-
Do you have any requests?
Yes, I have one guy here that is ready to join the fire department. I'd like to bring that up.
Okay. All right, we're there. Council, what's his name?
Lance Williams.
Lance Williams, stand up, please. Any objection to, council have any objections to Lance Williams? Okay.
Absolutely not.
With that being so said, let's allow Mindy to swear Lance in.
Do we
Let's
need
do
a
it now.
motion to hire?
Huh?
Need a motion to allow him to be?
Yeah, we do have we need a motion to hire, and then we can get him sworn in.
I'd make a motion to hire Lance Williams as a member of the Linn Valley Fire Department, volunteer.
I'll second it.
Conversation? All in favor?
Aye.
Very good, it's unanimous. Lance, if you'll step up, we'll get you sworn in.
And we don't want him to walk out the door.
Right there. Before you change your mind. Run out.
Raise your hand.
I thought it was raised right.
Raise right hand. Good job.
Yeah, raise your right hand.
I, Lance Williams,
I, Lance Williams,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and faithfully discharge the duties of firefighter.
and faithfully discharge the duties of a firefighter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Okay. Well, we've streamlined it. We're all the way down to the water project right now. I think that the council remembered, I personally called every one of you and give you what I thought was better news than we had last month on the water project, what our cost was to complete versus what our cost would be maybe to borrow a little more money and add more meters to bring our costs down. And through a lot of hard work by a lot of people, many phone calls, and of course, this doesn't come without saying city clerk's responsibility to the amount of work that goes in to the numbers and reports that have to be delivered for such work. You guys and yourself, you know, what took calls from me, allowed me to take the time to explain why we're here today. And now I'd like to introduce Aaron Castro, which is one of our lead engineers for both of our projects, water and the sewer lagoon expansion project. He's there to have this conversation firsthand with the council.
Yeah,
Aaron, please.
yeah, thanks for having me. Good evening, Mayor and council folks. So Jason Hoskinson was planning to be here. If you recall, 2 weeks ago, he was the one who gave an update. Had a minor family issue and couldn't make it. Everyone's fine. So I'm here in his stead, and then as we discussed before, once the project's moving into construction, I'll be one of the point people taking these, both this project and the wastewater project, forward and working alongside the city with the contractors that are constructing those. So last council meeting Jason attended, and as Lou mentioned, it was to discuss the bid opening and project funding for the city's 2024 distribution system improvements project. BG was directed at the end of that meeting to work with the USDA to look for additional funding to cover the amount of shortfall that we had, which is about $4.5 million. Which would allow the city to build the full project with the maximum amount of meters, which would help bring down user costs with the project. Great news came last week. The additional $4.5 million was approved by the USDA, and the even better news on that is a full $1 million of that was grant, which is not a loan, so only $3.5 million in loan, $1 million in grant. And I'll just mention that's not common for that to happen, so it's a great turn of events there that the USDA was willing to kind of recognize the fact that although this project was programmed and the PER was done in 2019 and budgets were set and agreements were made before COVID, a lot of things happened, and they recognized that and were able to kind of come up with that funding for us. So I'll give a quick update then on kind of what's involved is that additional 4.5 million will allow for the full project, including all 6 of the ad alternates. We bid the project initially with a base bid and 6 ad alts to kind of continuously see if we could get more and more of the project built out to its full completion. This 4.5 million allows for everything to be built. So all of the meters that were identified as part of the PER will be installed, as well as an additional, all the additional meters that were identified after the PER. Now all those are included. This will build basically all the water lines that are, if anyone's curious, shown on that map over there, that basically touches most of the city. It also includes a contingency of about close to 900,000 in that amount. That's part of the grant, and that's where we'll potentially be able to use. We anticipate about $250,000 of that 800 to 900,000 being used to get even more meters, basically as part of the project through change orders. So yeah, where that leaves the overall budget is the project total cost with everything included, including the water tower, all the design, everything is about 22 million. And now that we've got the grant, the loan up, it basically matches that right at 22 million. So the project is fully funded. Great news. And then what I would like to propose to the city is a couple of motions. The first one is to accept the USDA's letter of conditions amendment that will go along with that additional funding and grant. That would be the first motion I'd like to present for the city to make and approve, followed by a motion to approve the subsequent agreements that need to go along with that, which are a request for obligation of funds, a loan resolution, and the grant agreement. So I'll just stop there real quick and see if anyone has any questions.
I would like to add to that, to just simplify that a little bit. We did the project, the lowest bid came in at $14 million. It was $3 million over what we were budgeting. Okay, so with that $3 million, we were gonna have to go get the loan from the USDA just to complete the project because of the time frame and the money difference. Conversation took place, you know, how could we, instead of just borrowing an extra $3 million, how can we borrow money that benefits us? Well, one of the big conversations in this community is, how come I don't get a meter, okay? The answer to that was, well, because the PER was in, that was all suggested during the PER. And the last conversation we had, by doing it this way, is going to allow us to add anywhere from 164 to possibly 200 was what Jason used. More meters this project will bring the cost down. We didn't realize we were going to get $1 million of this put toward the grant. That's money we don't have to pay back. So for the most part, if the council approves this, we're going to be able to add more meters, bring the cost down, and basically we're borrowing $500,000 more than we just originally needed to complete the project, you know, as the lowest bid came in. So with that said, you need to walk the council through the motions.
Sure.
One at a time,
Yeah.
okay, because each thing I sign requires a different motion. So if you'll prepare them, walk them through that specific motion,
Did Jason's
we'll
letter make
make
it into
that
the
motion.
agenda? I think the motions are written out there. First one would be
Accepting
2A.
additional
Yeah,
federal funding.
sorry.
Okay.
To consider or to accept?
This is to accept.
Yeah, 2A is to accept and approve.
This is the proposal that the USDA, after we requested our funds, this is the proposal they came back with. Because originally in the alternative, we had no idea we were gonna get $1 million in grant.
Yeah, the letter there's already an agreement that the city has in place. This is the amendment to include the additional amounts.
All right. I move to accept and approve the USDA Rural Development Letter of Conditions Amendment Number 1.
I'll second.
Any conversation, council? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
I move to approve the request for obligation of funds, the loan resolution, and the grant agreement.
I'll second.
Conversation? All in favor?
Aye.
We're good.
And then the third item on there for a motion to award would basically be based off the bid openings that we had. The apparent low bidder at the time was Hettinger, yep, in the amount of $15,849,057, which is the base bid plus all the ad alternates.
I had a conversation with Mike Pan at the USDA, who personally told us that we needed to move forward with getting our contract awarded. Okay, so different than the conversation was when we only had 12 million, he's encouraging us to get this done tonight. So,
Yeah.
council?
Chris?
Actually, I can't. I have a conflict. I know the people
Okay.
personally, so.
Oh. I motion that we move to award the construction contract to Hettinger Excavating in the amount of $15,849,057 for the base bid and add alternates 1 through 6.
Second.
Conversation. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
And one abstain.
And Mindy, we will need the record of the number of yeas and nays or abstentions to go on record.
Okay.
So I think that's it for the water.
Okay.
Just a quick update there then is once we get this agreement over to Hettinger, and then assuming the other piece that has to get signed, is it does have to get signed on by USDA on their end. The potential looming government shutdown the end of this week, so this was important to get all this signed now. We'll get it into their hands, and then we're hoping that they promise us that they're going to review it right as soon as they get it. So if we get this agreement in place right then.
Mike
we should be
Pan
good.
had indicated that as soon as he got the verification this council approved, which is what he'll do with my signature tonight, is, he says he'll put that money aside in an account for us.
Yep.
So this is based on what this council did tonight, this is a done deal.
Yeah, it was good timing too for this meeting, to be honest. So,
Okay.
okay.
Any other questions? Okay, council. While you're standing there, Aaron, if you could, we're fixing to have a conversation this evening regarding our sewer and lagoons and a lot of stuff. And if you could give us an update on where we're at with the sewer lagoon project and what you think that maybe some of our tentative target dates
Yeah.
that we will actually have new lagoons to use.
Yep. So the plans went into KDHE for review several months ago. We got comments back from KDHE in the middle of February. We've now addressed all those comments and sent back for final review from KDHE. It's in their hands. We spoke to them last week. Many of their staff were at a conference for the week. So we're anticipating by the end of this week having a final approval from KDHE. Final approval from KDHE moves us into the next step where we can start getting ready for bidding for this job. We think that could happen as early as May to do a bidding, and get a contractor on board, and then start construction basically late spring, early summer. And that tentative time frame, I shared a schedule with the mayor and the city clerk a few weeks ago with a hope, kind of that schedule shows anywhere from 12 to 18 months from now, basically about a month ago, is about the soonest we should expect for the lagoons to be online and receiving flows. So there's still a bit of time there for that work to get done. We're hoping for the shorter of those timelines, about 12 months. But there will be a little bit of the winter months in there. That would put us basically right into April. If we get a contractor on board, and then basically 12 months from there. Or later into the summer of 2026. So that's where it stands right now. Everything is on schedule with KDHE as I described. The next step before we can get approval from them is to go back to USDA and get their final approval. That doesn't take long. It's basically just making sure all the forms that we've had and got them already ready are filled out, sent over to USDA, and once they see KDHE, the local agency, approves, we're ready to go right into the bidding.
Council, any questions? Okay. With no more questions, thank you very much,
Yeah,
Aaron.
no problem.
And,
Thank you.
we'll get all that stuff signed tonight and stamped as soon as the meeting's over. I would like to stop and take a conversation that was going to be under new business, but I want to move it up to the water project. It's called, our bond issue 21 for the water project will become callable or due in December of 2025. It was something I brought to the council's attention last year, what would happen this year, and now it's this year. Joey McKinney, our advisor for the bonds, will be in-house on April 14th to discuss, we have plenty of time, how we can prepare for this and how we can do this. Okay, so there'll be a lot of questions that he's gonna ask. You know, we have him plugged into B&G now. So, you know, he's asking the questions that he needs for us to go, because again, although the USDA is going to provide us that loan opportunity, we've got to go out and do the bonding. So that's, that requirement is on the city. Okay. The council have any questions regarding that? Okay, very good. Well, let's next, I think everyone's here for the next one.
Did you still need the executive session?
We
Said something about a 5-minute one around the water project?
probably, for the water project, no. No, it wouldn't work. Okay, to start with the sewer moratorium directive, okay? The council voted, motioned and voted, and gave me a directive in the last meeting to prepare an ordinance to implement for the moratorium, or to stop adding to the sewer. Okay, so it come with a lot of challenges. You know what? We've had a lot of expert opinions out there on Facebook, I'm sorry. And with all of that, as we try to go through all of this and the experts and et cetera, I need for the council to rescind the motion to that directive so that we can reopen this in conversation tonight. My directive was to provide an ordinance, which in an event, that was what I would ask you to do tonight. But since then, there's been a great deal of conversation, including this council has entered in, so that, you know what, it's a conversation now. So with that, I need you to rescind that motion.
I motion that we rescind the directive for a moratorium ordinance.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Thank you, guys. Okay. Guys, we've grown exponentially here. The city manages a water and sewer for a recreational community. Okay? This has exponentially grown since 2019. You know, along with that, I want to hand out some charts, some evidence that we took. Everything we're handing out here come right off of records. This is data provided so that we can try to explain why this system is so overstressed and what's going on. I did not consider myself the expert on this. However, we brought the expert in tonight. Jason Solomon's in the house to answer any of the council's questions. So, with that, if everybody pass these out for me, please. So, again, a lot of good work that was done by city employees. And if you'll just look at the back of the page, looking at just the growth in alone. You know, if you look at since 2021 or 2019, the totals at the bottom are since 2021. We've added 170 sewer tanks. That gives you the per year. We've added 22 low pressure sewer installations. Again, and since 2021, in total, we've added, and what comes in goes out. So 99 water tanks and 58 water meters. So what comes with a water tank is water use. What comes with a water meter is water use. Okay? I believe cities close to us evaluate some of those low-pressure sewers. That evaluation is 1,500 gallons per person per month. So as we look at these evaluations, I didn't take the average two-household person. You know what, I used $2,500 on, or 2,500 gallons on the spreadsheet on the other side. There's nothing made up here. We could never charge, for years, we could never charge the POA because we had no way of confirming the exact use. So the city had to go out and install meters. Well, we had planned on more of them being installed, but these are the ones that got installed. The one at the clubhouse, that's read off of a meter that's been validated and certified by the state for the city to use. So that everybody doesn't think we're making this shit up. We done the research. The second one is meter the bathhouses. Okay, again, take a look at some of the meter use there. And oh, by the way, the tank that dumps the raw sewage for the fifth wheels and the RVs are not included on this meter, nor is the campground. So we have every reason to believe that every one of these are accurate, including when the displays didn't work. Didn't create an average. You know what? They just didn't work. We didn't count it. The sewer haul, that right there is what the POA reports to us. Okay? Verbatim. That's how they bill it. That's how they serve it. That's how they're billed for. Not a gallon more is added. It gives us a total usage. It's impactful. We moved down the line to 323 low-pressure sewer residents. You know, not at 1,500 gallons a month per person, but at 2,500 for a two-person household. And people that are on this buying it are people who live around the lake. This system was put in to protect that water source because there's a water plant there. So these are the houses that you see that are built around the lakes that are predominantly on this low pressure sewer that we're promoting at such a low use. If you take it down to the end, guys, I feel safe to say that I'm not exaggerating when those are our daily dump averages, the monthly dump averages. The only thing that isn't applied to this was we added that daily dump overage at the bottom, which there's no, disregard that, there's no value to that column being added up. This is based on, if you do this arithmetic, this is based on, the state says that we've used, in 2024, I believe it was 18.4 million gallons. With that, they denote the fact that we are 34% of that water is unaccounted for. Well, it's not accounted for. We know where it's going. I've been watching this for a long time, back when there was conversations in this city back in 2019 and 20 about how do we manage the growth of the city. Well, people come and go, people take knowledge and information with them, and the city is left to try to be the experts. Well, I provided you the best expert opinion I can based on what the usages of this community is right now and how it is growing. So how do we make compliance? How do we get there? Well, you know what? It would be an email from Jason Solomon that got shared with the community to me regarding, you know, what his recommendations were. And one of his recommendations were we stop adding. I'm sorry, there's no polite way to use the words based on how do we stop adding. Okay, the other part would be, he indicated in that very same email that we needed to try to get as close to compliance as we can, which is 30,000 gallons a day. So who's not going to get their sewer hauled? What are we supposed to do? Take care of the people who are here? Or are we supposed to take the pressure of a growing community that we can't manage? The POA couldn't manage this. That's why it's in the city's name and the license is permitted by the city. Okay, in both these instances, sewer and water. And as we try to continue our best, you know what, I again would tell everybody, let's rely on the experts. And unless there's certificates and licensing and degrees that go with what's out there for you guys on Facebook, if I could, I'd like Jason Solomon to step up. He is the expert with the state. He's here to define to everybody exactly what that permit and what we're required to do and not do, besides let's just wait for it to fail. Okay, Jason?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So start out, I'll just let you know, my name is Jason Solomon. I work for the Kansas Rural Water Association. Prior to working for the Kansas Rural Water Association the last 7 years, prior to that I worked for the Kansas Department of Health and Environment as a water and wastewater regulator. So I actually would be someone that would come and inspect these lagoons. I was I'd say a half-ass inspector. I wasn't very good, always tried to help people. So it was much better fit for me to come over to Kansas Rural Water. I do carry a Class 4 wastewater license. It's the highest license you can carry in Kansas. I've been on a lot of lagoons all across Kansas, probably more than I wanted to. I usually wear a hat that says "Gone Fishing" when I go out on them, and everyone's always asking me if the fish biting. So, yeah. So, just with working with the system, we just were up there, and it still is. It's in what I would consider septic conditions. So septic conditions are just when it's nutrient loaded. It's got too much stuff that I call them the poo eaters. So the bacteria that actually break down the waste, they require oxygen. And so when you take that oxygen away, then the lagoon cell dies essentially. It doesn't have any living bacteria per se, and then they turn septic, and it takes a long time for them to turn around. Without getting too in depth of what a biochemical oxygen demand is, if I don't know if you all have a copy of your permit, but you have a wastewater permit that's it's a federal permit. The state is the regulatory agency because they carry primacy in Kansas, but it's still a federal document. And it's called the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System. So it's an NPDES permit that is, like I said, the Kansas regulates it, but up to a point, because you always have the EPA overlooking and looking down. So in 2019, I did a sludge profile of cell 1 and 2, and I believe you might have a copy of that, what I found, my findings during that. And the city took the took the recommendation and actually had cell 1 had the sludge removed out of it. Cell 2 warranted it according to the regulation of 16 inches or greater, then it should have been removed, but it still, basically has that old sludge in the bottom of it. So one thing I'd like to be clear about is when we talk about sludge, when I do a sludge profile, it's generally of the sludge that's been, it's basically the remains or remnants of the bacteria that have done their job and then died, and actually they have digested the sludge. So true sludge on the bottom of a lagoon that's been there for years is pretty much inert, and it doesn't have a bad smell. It seems odd that it wouldn't, but and so what I usually measure is the years of accumulation. Okay, and so as that stuff is digested, it compresses and compresses down. In the letter that I wrote the city, I reference sludge and solids kind of almost in back and forth, hand in hand, and that is because the sludge or the solids that are in this lagoon is not comparable to the over years of a digested sludge that's all the way digested down. This is just basically solids that are built up in there that are giving us this thick sludge that's in there. I believe that another issue that the city has facing against them is that the hold and haul, when you hold that wastewater in these tanks, it turns septic while it's in there. So it's already kind of rancid because it's just sitting in there. And then that's the way I understand it's pumped directly and then just dumped in there. So most wastewater systems in Kansas, and I checked with Ryan Eldridge, the engineer today, and he said that I said 95%, and he said it's more like 99% of all wastewater that goes to a lagoon in Kansas runs through a lift station. So the reason that's important is because as it's running through that lift station, it is going to be emulsified. It's going to be turned to, we're going to liquefy it. Makes it easier to break down in the first cell and all your toilet papers and stuff like that. So most of them go through a pump. I guess there's maybe 1% that just have a straight gravity feed. So that's one of the issues, is that not only are you potentially adding more than you should per day, which they're by design, they design them in such a way that if you, wastewater in, wastewater out. So if we have 30,000 gallon in today, then the same time it should be by design go 30,000 gallons out. So it's just a system that 30 in, 30 out. But if you start exceeding that, then the cells, they turn septic, and they can turn septic, and that's just because your bacteria don't have enough space, and they can't produce oxygen fast enough with the sunlight through photosynthesis that they turn around and die. So I could go on and on. Poo water is my thing, but I don't know how much, how in depth you all want to go. I'll tell you right now that I'm not going to tell the city whether to, the first question, I'm not going to tell you whether you should not build or build. I'm going to tell you the health of the lagoon system. And the health of the lagoon system is poor right now. It's in bad shape. It's not that it can't be turned around, but it's in bad shape. And just continually adding to the issue doesn't make sense. Now, are there ways around that? Are there other things? Sure. But I'd be welcome to take any questions from the council. Is there any questions that you all have? Or yes, sir.
I have a tank.
Mm-hmm.
And is there something that I could do, because it's my tank, to help this situation?
So we could get as far as, we could put a little bit aerator in it, possibly have some type of aeration in it.
Okay.
I would have to resort, because most of the systems that I deal with are municipalities that just, it all flows. It goes into the lift station and flows out. So I don't deal with the hold tanks very often. And
You don't recommend Red X, I mean,
No.
A chemical breakdown for people
Right.
to put in their own tanks to try
Right.
to.
It can
biodegrade
have,
their own tanks.
so in your, because I have a septic tank, and I put Red X in my septic tank, but that's going to be different because we're sending that, we have an anaerobic condition, and then you're taking your anaerobic condition, bringing it into an aerobic condition when you put it into the lagoon, and it's not going to have a positive effect on the bacteria, I mean, to put it simply. So
With the tanks, there's not a
it's
lot.
just holding it. Yeah, if you're holding it, it's going to sit there and pretty much go septic, and so then it's going to be a septic type situation. And where if you ran it through a lift station, that aerates it again. So you emulsify it. So that's I feel like part of the issue is that the solids are just that. They're solids, and they aren't being liquefied or emulsified through a pumping system like normal. And you're taking it and you're dumping it into one spot, and so. There's some numbers that are listed. So I spoke of BOD and total suspended solids. So BOD is the biochemical oxygen demand, and total suspended solids are what they measure as what particulate that can still be in the water. Now, what you don't want is you don't want the poo water. You don't want poo particulate, but it can also be algae or leaf breakdown. The BOD, the biochemical oxygen demand, is going to be the one that you really that has a true effect on the aquatic life of the receiving stream. So you have a limit of 30 BOD in your permit. That permit I was talking about, your MPDS permit, you have to meet a certain criteria, a certain level. And thus far, the city has been doing that. I don't know, you can read my letter. It has that we talk about this. There's been several references to the third cell that you all have, that it's big enough that it adds detention time, but environmentally, even the folks at KDHE and myself and Charlie before me with Kansas Rural Water said it's really an unpermittable design. KDHE doesn't know how it happened, but I think that's how you guys are able to do what you're doing. So with that, that's what I have for that. Does anybody have any?
So my
Yes,
wife's
sir.
been telling me for the past couple of months
Mhm.
that she smells the lagoons, like it's getting stronger and stronger. Is that because it's gone septic?
That smell, the odor smell, they should smell like earthy. They shouldn't really have
They don't smell earthy right now.
No, they don't. Like I can probably still smell it on my clothes from being up there.
But is
And-
that also very abnormal in this winter months?
What's that?
Don't they tend to go a little dormant during the winter months? as
So
well?
what happens is that they go what you want to call, so the bacteria for every 15 degrees Celsius, you lose 30% of your treatment. So meaning when it gets colder, the bacteria like me, they don't like to do too much. You don't get as much work done when it's in the wintertime. So what happens is you build up this surplus of BOD. So what happens is, it's actually a test question, is what happens to your BOD in the winter months? Well, your BOD actually, in your lagoon, it excels, it goes up. So the VOD rises because your treatment's going down. And then yes, to answer your question, so you have less treatment in the winter, but now you've got a stockpile that has to catch up to. And what's happening with your system, I feel, is that it's so septic and so, this isn't just wintertime. Like this septic is not just wintertime, in my opinion. So, and I'd be glad to go up there with the whole council. We can go up after this and we can all go up there and I can show you what I'm talking about. And I mean, I don't know if it's necessary, but I'm just saying that it would be something that I would be more than willing to do.
Okay,
So-
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
One of the questions I have
Mhm.
is that, in 2019, 2020,
Mhm.
city in poor spending bought aerators,
Mhm.
fountains, okay?
Right,
Well, that was before we started dumping direct.
right.
Okay, if we were to install those two aerators, well, it wouldn't work in cell one because I got, you know, in the pictures, you see toilet paper floating everywhere. So if we put an aerator there, somebody will have to stand on the bank to clear that aerator every 15 minutes because this lagoon has toilet paper everywhere because of it's not being broke down. Okay, so, and the towelettes that are supposedly flushable. When he was out there last month, he went around, he says, I won't charge you anything for sinking your air bubbles. So, you know, towelettes were, even though they say right on the side of them, they're flushable, they're friendly, they're, you know what, they're floating all over our lagoons, so.
So one just side note about when you add aerators, then that changes your treatment. So it has to be a permitted addition. You have to tell KDHE, and I don't know if that's been done, that may have been done, I have no idea. But if you change, then you're also gonna have advanced treatment. So your wastewater operator is gonna need to have the next level. You'll have to have a class 2 because it's advanced treatment. And at any time, and I'm not suggesting that you do or don't, I'm just telling you the rules and regs, what'll happen is if at any time one of those aerators is off, then you're short-circuiting your system because they're considered part of the treatment. So when when they go down or get bogged down, whatever happens, if KDHE comes out, then that's a violation of not, you know, operating your system to the fullest that you said you were going to.
Would you
So-
also share with us, you talked about a short circuit,
Mhm.
would you share with us how the third cell is designed and how that is a short circuit system with that particular?
So the piping is, so when we talk about short circuiting, it means that when by design, your wastewater treatment facility has the optimal route of the flow. So meaning if you have a square lagoon and you put wastewater in one corner, you don't want to put it directly across your next pipe because that would be short circuiting. You would want the pipe as far away as you can. So that's, in order for it to not short circuit, you have to have distance. You have to make the wastewater go all the way through. And there was, when we first started this working around here, the effluent was taken, I believe, not in the right spot, or there was something, but I know that the piping is like such that it's just a direct shot, but it's still, for somehow, and I think it's because of surface water is what it gets in it, but I'm not sure about that. But it's, it can short circuit across the final cell just the way it's designed. I don't know.
What do you think KDHE's expectation to the permit and the license that was provided to us?
So Katie, to uphold the permit, you know, whatever it says. And so I would say that the 30,000 gallons is by design. That's what they would expect you to be putting in there. Can you go over that? People do because they have inflow and infiltration events, but they don't knowingly, consistently keep doing it. Your 30,000 gallons design flow isn't enforceable by your MPDS permit. It's enforceable if you're going over that, it's enforceable. But I'll say that KDHE's probably never enforced that. They wait for you to fail, and then after you fail, then they contact Kansas Rural Water, and we come out and help you try to get it back into compliance. So, I mean, we are the referral agency from Kansas Department of Health and Environment, and so any issues you have, they would call us first anyway. So
So the aerators only work in the first pond, right?
So the aerators can, I mean, I don't know how they were permitted. Someone,
No, the permit
can't do the
doesn't
aerators,
require,
'cause-
doesn't notify us. We never had aeration, nor was it ever submitted to the KDHE that we
Okay.
were wanting to add them.
right. So sometimes we add, I call them poo fountains, and I take my pump and we recirculate the water and spray it up in the air, but that's just a temporary, like you're adding permanent aerators, that would have to be, I mean, should be. I'm not the regulator.
I believe these were fountain
Yeah.
aerators that we had.
Yeah.
Temporary
Yeah.
until we
Yeah.
got our new lagoon in place.
Yeah. If they came, if there was a cord out there and they were ran, they would probably suggest that they were a little more than temporary is the only thing. I mean, I'm not suggesting that, I'm not the regulator. So each regulator is different. I can tell you that much. I trained half of them in the state, but some of them go off on their own. So, yep.
And we do have our sewer operator, Mike Page is
Yeah.
here.
Yep.
So
Yes, he is.
could
We
speak
just went up to
our,
the lagoons together.
could speak to our BOD and affluent stuff.
Anything you
or-
wanna step up in front of the mic, introduce yourself, and, you wanna try to explain to us why, this may not be, a dangerous application we're into right now?
Well, I don't know, I think even Jason alluded to the fact that you don't know how bad it is. We are getting a smell through it. I don't have near the years of experience. I've got about 20 years in this wastewater field and water field and operated maybe as many as 8 or 10 at a time. But I've only been contacted by the state of Kansas maybe twice, and it was just like Jason said, they come in, they're here to usually help. I'm gonna tell you, you're on this side in a very good district about working with someone. And you go further north, it's not that good. I mean, personally, what I do is we look at the trends on the BODs, the output versus the input of it, and where there's relative sampling. There are lagoons historically that they asked us to do the sampling on. For reasons just like this, we've said, hey, we need to use an accredited lab. They come up, they keep a chain of evidence, they do the sampling, they take it out, they submit it to the state, us, and Kansas. We're in good shape there. Now, we're gonna continue to do that. Now, what I would say is, this has not been going on, I've been here for about 8 years. I was asked to do this for a few months after the end of the low pressure sewer system, and we've been doing it about 8 years. And anyway, it was identified pretty quickly after the low pressure sewer system went in that we didn't have the treatment facility that we needed for this. Now, nobody knew that our growth was gonna be quite like it is. I think it would have far exceeded any projected growth in the calculation, but we knew it was behind. But were you guys, if I were a regulator coming in there looking at this, you're so far in front of the curve because you took a proactive position in this, and you went out and you secured funding, you took engineering, you got design, 16 months theoretically from 15 months from having this mothballed and put aside. So, and I will tell you, from the lagoons, the fence, the vegetation, a lot of this has come a long ways now. We've got an old system, I fight that lift station weekly to get it over, but I don't wanna go spend $40,000-$50,000 on something we're gonna go away in 16 months. That just doesn't make sense. So we spend some extra time over there trying to keep it going. Now, back to what I see going on, I don't know. I think, are we gonna bridge through 16 months? I have no idea. But if I was wanting to be proactive on the front of this, I would contact KDHE. We've talked about this, and just be proactive, say, come on down there, let's look at this, because I got some concerns. And they might say, like they have in the past, let's enlist KRW, Kansas Rural Water Association, and get them down here. We might do, there's an array of processes we can do. The licensing is not an issue. I don't believe, I won't say it's a non-issue, but we'll rectify that within 30 days if we have to get a aeration system. I'm not seeing the concern. I don't think what we're seeing is going to be a fountain. I think you're going to see turbulence in the water underneath these. They're floating devices, and they're going to circulate these waters. A lot of times we'll do these in around different lakes, Linn County is so blessed to have 5 residential lakes, and we have 2 or 3 just on our borders, so we have a lot of, from Franklin to Bates and Bourbon and all these other regulating communities that help us try and figure out what types of systems to put in on these little postie sites. Because most communities can't do a low pressure system, and it works. But, I mean, if I were truly greatly concerned with it, and we're getting some smell, and I don't know, it's gonna probably get a little better here this spring. We can probably do a few things to help it out, but yeah, we gotta keep the vegetation down, we gotta do some things like that that's gonna help us out. But we can get KDHE up here right away and say, hey, we're concerned with this smell and this being septic, what do you suggest? There are some trends out there, I don't wanna get way down into it right now because, I mean, we're not, none of us, Jason may be the exception as we come out here, he follows all this, but I don't think we want to start throwing out a whole bunch of like treatment for, until we get KDHE.
So we reach out to the KDHE. KDHE is gonna reach back out to Jason and send Jason back down here as their expert.
Well, I mean, they may.
Because that's under the understanding that KDHE's expert standing right here in the room right now.
He's one of them. There's
Okay.
multiple people work for KDHE,
Okay.
but he would come in there, and he has some thoughts on this too, but
So we don't like his answer, we go find somebody to find a better answer.
well, we're all concerned about what KDHE would go to maybe say, well, let's find out.
I'm concerned that the KDHE can come in and they can mandate that we do something at this particular point, or I'm worried that the system actually, that ain't broke, let's not fix it, it actually fails, and then the KDHE comes in, which now that's a legal decision that I'll allow the legal attorney to weigh in on, and not, and again, he explained to us what the permit of that compliance was, and there, I know there's legal input that goes with that compliance.
In my opinion, you're not that kind of position, but I am also not sitting here giving you advice. I'm just saying, do you want to be proactive, or do you want to be reactive?
Okay.
And if you're going to be proactive, let's get some people down here and see if they'll help us with the system. They have some chemical processes that can turn the cell around pretty easily, and there are some organic measures we can use. You're trying to bridge 16 months.
Okay.
And what about another desludging on the primary side?
In my personal opinion, since you're asking me, I think it's a waste of money, but I think you're probably going to have to deal with that sludge. I don't know how this process is, this retro system is going to be dealt with at the end of the closing, but I mean, you're going to have to do it again at that point in time. I mean, they're not going to let you just sit there and I'm sure it's part of your new design. I mean, they're probably going to come in and say, well, we got to get rid of this. And you've got quite a bit of acreage out here. You want to either tube it in or spread it to the surface and get the agronomists involved.
We desludged cell 1 in 2021, and it was approximately $53,000. To desludge that lagoon today is $75,000. So, and a desludge is in the project for those lagoons to put them to rest. You know, so only one of these desludgings are going to get covered by the project. Now, not that we can't afford it. The funds, we have emergency funds we built into that. We could desludge it if it was necessary. Jason's recommended a complete sludge profile before we, that he do a complete profile before we enter into a $75,000 deal. Anything else, Mike?
No, I know that you guys are trying to, I mean, you secured $30 million in trying to grow this community and accept the group and get the funding and all that. And I know you don't want to hinder that, but that's where I'm saying, let's be proactive. Let's get them down here. I mean, I've worked with groups up north, and they don't take that position. But the groups out that you're working with right here, out of Chanute's going to come up and say, okay, let's see what we can figure out. Maybe as simple as adding some chemicals.
Even if it is Jason again that would come up, he
Well,
would
no,
be
right. So it'd be
then
the people
under
that train-
KDHE's.
that they are the up. So I'm not a regulator anymore, and so the last thing I'm going to do is regulate anyone. I'm not going to tell them. But when you call them in, they're going to come in and they're going to find some things I can almost guarantee. And then one thing that they're going to want to know is the sampling location. How are we sampling the influent? Because right now I don't know how. Essentially when you take an influent sample, you have to take all influent as a mix. So right now, the pressure main comes in at one corner, and then they're backing and dumping in another area. So truly, the influent number hasn't been accurate, unless, and that they very may be doing it, but the sampler would come out there and take the sample out of the septic hall, half of that, and then you go over to the other pipe and take half of that. I don't think that's probably how he's doing it. Is that right, Mike? I mean, is he?
The one that I watched him take on the influent on that, no, he took it near the discharge of the Linn lift station and the low pressure sewer.
Actually, short circuit, that's an example of a short circuit right up there where the pipe is.
And you know, honestly, we could do some pretty simple, easy ways to
Pipe it
remediate some of the
Yeah.
short circuiting. All three cells are, honestly, the fact that you have so much retention, you're so unique because we're not influenced by I here. We have no gravity sewer with the exception of that little piece behind the POA that's been worked on and corrected. So most communities are fighting, you know, you're talking about 30,000, their lives are 30,000. We have a bigger rain event, they might see 300,000 that day, or for 2 weeks after that big rain event. And we don't have those kind of numbers, and it almost would help in this situation, would it not?
They'd flush it out.
That's
Because
right.
I mean, right, yeah.
So that's not helping us, and the kind of influence we're taking is not helping us. But at the end of the day, if you were to call KDHE, the first thing they're gonna do is pull up your test reports, look at your training, and look at that. We had a pretty significant event 6 or 7 years ago when we first took this on. We thought there was no discharge. I mean, there was a pipe right here at the level, thanks to Jason. He come up there and we looked, and he said, there's gotta be something. We come digging around in the brush out here. We had been discharged. I'm thinking, oh, well, you know, I just took this on. I'm sitting here with KDHE. This is going to be a big black eye. The guy said, spilt milk. What are we doing to fix it? And that's the same kind of attitude.
I was there. Because I was there. That's why.
Maybe
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know.
right.
It was spilt milk. Okay,
Yes,
what are we
that's
doing to remediate that issue?
I
Here's what we're
remember the
doing.
conversation.
Okay,
Right. So
continue on.
yeah, that's right. And so that's one way for it to go for sure. You know, that's how we can, and it can go that way. I would say that, and again, I've told you already that I'm not going to say quit building, quit doing. I'm just telling you the health of the lagoons is such that they're not healthy right now. And if KDHE does come in, the last thing I would do is be adding homes. That would be a slap in their face. And that's my personal opinion about it, is that if they come in and we call them in, then we have to have a plan to alleviate somehow the strength of the waste. I mean, we can get off into the woods as far as we want, but we would have to figure out something. And as of right now, I don't know what that would be. I mean,
Add $150,000 chopping system so that we could emulsify it and put it in there. Meanwhile,
right.
that comes at our cost.
So, and one thing that the KDHE will look at right off the bat is the population, because the population is the number, you know, it's 100 gallons per person per day. So if that's just how they design their lagoons. So you're showing 1,000 people and 100 gallons per person per day, we're already past our 30,000 by a long shot. So
Before we ever got to the holding hall.
Right. So these are just things that, like, when that's what they're gonna ask me, population, you know, how much in water use. I mean, I don't know what. Yeah. I folded mine up. Yeah. So, anyway. So, I mean, you know, if we're putting 30,000 in, you know, it was designed for 30,000. Above that, by design, you know, it's the reason they design it for that is so you don't add more than that. We're having again, compounding the issue is the Holden Hall, is the septic material and the manner that it's in is in a solid. I mean, you're just putting this blob right there where they dump, and it's like 2 feet thick of this septic stuff. So, anyone have any other questions?
Council have any more questions?
Well, Aaron, real quick, as part of this design, we do have a lift station that's going to be going in that would be right down here by the fire station, and we were putting in a dump point for them to.
Yeah, which would alleviate the issue of them dumping in a separate location.
Correct. Is there any way that we could have that be part of the first initial part of
It
the
is part
project?
of
It is part of the
Yeah,
initial.
and it'll
Push
be-
to our current lagoons and then switch it over after?
Yeah, I'll have to look at what we've got, but the design we've done and the temporary plan we've got that we're gonna suggest to the contractor.
Create a design change, it has to go through KDHE, and
Yeah,
that puts a
yeah.
halt on our permit approval.
That's true,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
what I'm getting at is.
Same thing, we got caught in a year ago, change orders or changing
Design.
at your level, just slow
Just
things
Slow
down.
everything down.
Yeah, so it's designed to try to get to the final solution as quick as
Right.
possible, and then desludge the existing, existing lagoons to be used for overflow.
The problem is, if you get KDHE in here, just like you said, Jason, you're
I
still
work-
building
Yeah.
when you know that you're way, way over, and you're wanting them to come up with a solution for you. Well, the first thing they're gonna say is, stop building. Stop adding more to it. If anything, take away from it. And the only way to take away from it is you gotta have your holding hall go somewhere else. Which, what is it, like $365 if you get it, take it up to Kenneth?
Well,
But then we would have a clear mandate as well. And there would be no argument that we have to do it. The state said we had to do it.
You never want that.
I'm
Look-
just saying.
Look at the whole dam
I'm not
situation.
arguing. I'm not arguing that, I'm
I
just saying.
told those guys over and over and over, fix the spillway, because once the Corps of Engineers finds out, you're done.
Yep.
And you think you can't afford it now, it will bankrupt you. And here we are, 4 to 6 million we're gonna spend down there, because we refused to spend $400,000 at the time. You don't wanna mess with the government entities.
do we have any more questions for Mike, council, Mike Page and Jason? Okay, thank both of you guys
I got
very
a
much.
question. Well,
Yeah,
if we
appreciate
do
it.
nothing, and we don't stop building, what is the chances it's gonna fail?
My crystal ball. I mean, it's a hot load in there right now. If you want my personal opinion, I don't think that your final cell it wouldn't meet any KDHE requirement. There's no, it's the shape of it.
It's a pond.
It's a pond.
It's
It's a
a
pond
runoff
that
water
someone
pond.
pencil whipped it in and made it, I mean, according to, that's what the engineer said. They said they can't find anywhere that was ever permitted, and it just became permitted. I have nothing to do with that. You guys had nothing to do with it. It is such what it is. But I think that there's probably influence up there, and that's why you're meeting compliance. But do I know that? I don't know that.
That's why
I mean,
we're-
I can't, this is speculation.
It don't take a rocket ship person to figure out that that is a pond that filled with runoff water. That's where we're getting our effluent from.
The runoff water had diverted around it, but it was a pond. You are correct. And I believe it was a borrow pit.
Borrow pit for that bridge is
For
what it
that
was.
overpass right there.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately somebody said, hey, this would be, but it has all the influent water that was designed to fill a pond. Farm pond was diverted around it. So we're not getting groundwater, because I'm just
I mean,
saying,
but-
would've, when we reevaluated this 7 years ago, they would've stopped that.
Not when I was here.
Any more questions, council?
Well, Mike, what you're saying, you would call KDHA and see what they have to say, and you're saying don't do it.
I think you're
I'm
obligated
not
to-
saying to not call
Are
the
you
state.
saying not call
That's what I'm
KDHA?
saying. I'm the number one proponent saying always to call them. Yes, you should, the council can decide whether they want to call them or what avenue or what direction they're gonna take. I'm not gonna go on record as saying I said not to call the state.
Right,
That's
well,
for
but
damn
if they
sure.
come down here and say stop building, then we, or they ask us what we're gonna do about it, then we say we're gonna stop building. We don't have a choice.
And they'll say, and by the way, this is an unpermitted thing. We aren't taking influence samples correctly. What else have we got here? Oh, EPA is just right up the road and they can't travel very far right now. I'm just saying hypothetical.
Right.
And I mean,
You can
that's.
open up a can of worms.
Right,
That's what
and,
you're
but
saying.
I mean, I don't wanna be a one-sider, you
Yeah.
know, it also could be that they go, who gives a shit? They could say, who cares, but,
The
that's
reason
a-
I'm asking, I want the community to hear you.
sure, yeah,
You know what I'm
I
saying?
understand, yeah, so, and, you know, I mean,
Does the community wanna take that chance?
Any more questions from the council? Okay, with that, the last thing I have, we're good, Jason, thank you very much for coming down, spending the time. At this point in time, Jamie, would you explain to us our legal obligation to the KDHE permit?
You have to be in compliance. And that's, I mean,
not trying to be a smartass, but
What does that
I'm
mean?
just being very honest.
What does that mean? We
If
we
there's a
don't
per- if
have,
there-
we can make decisions based on, we don't have to stay in compliance?
No, if there's
I
a
mean,
permit-
what's the legal, what are our legal boundaries here based on,
Lou, if there's a permit, you are required, the city's required to follow the permit in of itself. If there are conditions, the city is to follow those conditions. If the city does not follow those conditions, what are the penalties and everything else, that's up to KDHE. You've heard what they've said about what the KDHE can or can't do. KDHE come in and ask for help, give the city help, they can come in and do whatever they want within their powers. But as far as what's the legal obligation is just like a contract. You have to follow what it says.
okay, thank you. Real quick, I want to also explain, we're here tonight because the council also had questions. One of the questions from council was the sledging the lagoons. Researched it. We could get a desludging company in here in July, desludge it for 75 grand. Tried to answer that. That does not bring the city within compliance. The other one is suggested by another council, higher impact fees. Well, we set impact fees on this several years ago of $500 for tanks, and I can tell you that it never even slowed it down. Look at the spreadsheets. And again, that doesn't put us in compliance either. Some of the recommendations, stop adding to the problem and how, okay? To try to comply with the 30,000 gallons a day. Okay, so we don't have to stop building. What we can do is we can look at our high volume users, the clubhouse, the laundry, the bathhouses, along with the church. Okay, and we could pass the ordinance that heavy users will no longer be qualified. We won't allow them to discharge. So that we can do, but now we're punishing the people who live here, so that the people who want to live here can move in. How do we make these decisions? Who doesn't get hauled? Okay, who makes that decision? Okay, and if I can't haul you this month, how else do you think you would get that hauled? Well, I talked to a service company that has to be licensed to do this, by the way. We just don't let people dump them in ditches, of which we have people in court right now that do that. Okay, so we're dealing with that on a monthly basis. Someone in court that run a hose and siphon it into the ditch. Well, wait a minute, they dump their business into somebody else's tank. Guys, we're dealing with it every day. It's part of our growth. I can tell you that the POA done a magnificent job in growing a recreation community and selling lots. Since 2021, they've sold over 300 lots. They've done a great job at presenting and representing our community. But I think the city has a different job here. And our job is to maintain and take care of the people that are here. To get an outside service company in here, this was the gentleman over in Drexel last year. He would have to take this first. Miami County won't take this. There's nowhere else in Linn County that can take it, this type of volume. He could get maybe 4 trucks, 5 trucks out of here a day and take care of his own business. It'd have to go to Kenneth, Kansas. That would cost $150 per 1,000. So that means for everybody trying to haul 2,000 gallons, you're spending between $350 to $450 if you could get on the list. So again, as we're having these conversations, what are we supposed to do? Again, we have a lot of people out there that say do nothing, you know. Economic growth, let's talk about that for a quick second. The POA, the regime of the POA isn't interested in economic growth, okay? Took us 2 years to get a 1-cent tax for a used fire truck that we're having a hard time finding one for $350,000. You know, again, they're not interested in investing in the community. Dan Donham sat on this council as a councilman and presented to this council an opportunity for economic growth to build a new city hall. And through conversations this council had with POA members, it's not in the cards. The community doesn't want to see the growth. They don't want to pay more taxes. And this all is tax orientated. We build a new city hall, it's a tax base. You know what, the mental health building we're talking about becomes a tax base. I don't know that the community itself is interested in any of these things. You're not interested in us raising the taxes. So as a city and trying to manage growth, this is what we're working with. Okay, a community that is growing. We talk about, let's wait and call the KDHE. This year alone, we've already put in, just since March 10th, we have an application for 26 tanks. Okay, not to include what's on your spreadsheet from building and codes. It's already been approved, and 2 tanks are coming in today. Guys, I don't know what to do. I'm here to tell you that I want to be able to flush my toilets. I want to be able, I'm on a tank. I want to be able to haul my sewer affordable. Okay, and I'm not here to try to encourage the council either which way. I've done the best I can to provide you the information. The same as everybody out on Facebook that was their experts, wanted to make sure they provided everybody with their expert observation. With that, you know, guys, we're going to, how do we do this? Is going backwards an option? I mean, how do we go backwards in this situation? And I'm asking council here, because these are hard decisions for hard reasons that had nothing to do with this council, the exponential growth of this community, other than we moved down here ourselves. So.
Because it came out in 2005. And
The original
when they said that it needed to be addressed.
And nothing happened.
And we were the first council to actually
Absolutely.
do something about it.
And as I recall, the last time we spoke to KDHE about it, before we started a project that they're well aware that we're in the middle of waiting on them to give us the permission to go ahead and move forward, that was their statement, was get it fixed. If that means you have to build new lagoons, you have to build new lagoons.
And again, since 2021, we've been working on that. With the grant application, the grant being approved, the loans and grants being approved, which, oh, by the way, it wasn't near as kind as everybody would think it was. You know, the water project, we got a 55-45 split. This project, we got a 90 we got to pay back with a 10%. So I can be really honest with you, if they were showing us any kind of sympathy, it sure wasn't in the grant split.
Not on the USDA side, for sure.
You know, certain part of this, I think that the USDA holds cities responsible to solve for themselves sometimes. You know, so I do think that showing the KDHE that the city has shown awareness and is being proactive, I do think that that is a better option than waiting for it to fail. You know, so I've got, council, do you have anything that you want to add to that?
I don't think we need to wait for it to fail, and we need to make sure that the people who live here can continue to haul.
Well, I brought Jason down here to speak to everybody because, you know what, based on, again, I don't want to do my business on Facebook, but, you know, with Facebook, you know what, it would appear that people had personal conversations with Jason, and I can tell you he knew nothing about any of those conversations. So, you know, Council, anything else? Did you give me an ordinance number? Okay. Last time, council,
Do we need some time to digest this?
I would make a motion to table it
well,
until the next
before
meeting.
we do that, hang on for a second before you motion. I'd like to respond to that. Just in 1 month, we've added 26 tanks. The next month, it'll be 50 tanks. Okay, so how are we gonna handle this right now when there's no order? She has to take applications and she has to accept funds, and if he approves them, we have to issue permits.
Well, just like I just said, I want some time to think about it.
Let some time to think about it. Well,
If everybody else decides to go ahead and deny it, then that's fine. And I'll vote with what I'm feeling right now.
Okay, how much time do we need?
I've already made a motion to table this until the next council meeting.
2 weeks.
Per what? I mean,
I mean, if
What-
there's 3 of you that want to
are we
vote on it right
waiting-
now, you guys are more than welcome to.
pardon?
If there's 3 of them that want to vote on it now and agree to it, then we don't have to wait. So,
You don't have to motion to table something.
No,
Somebody
no,
wants
you
to
don't
motion
motion table
to
it.
move forward, then
Take
we vote
action.
motion to move
I
forward.
need a motion if we're gonna take action. You know, so the question is that, again, that's not for me to tell you what to say or what you do. You know what? Again, this is on you, council.
I'm just on the fence. I'm having a hard time.
I
deciding.
understand. You know what? Everybody's
Alright,
on the
so this
fence.
meeting needs to, do we have a next meeting in 2 weeks, or when, huh? 24th, where's that?
14 days.
Two, simmer down. Been doing math all day. Mr. Gabel, do you think that 2 weeks would give you time to?
I pretty much made my decision.
Robert, you think you need that 2 weeks?
I mean, I know where I'm at on it, and it's the same place I was in 2023, which is I am not ever going to be for shutting down building permits for any reason.
What about you,
If the
Sam?
city's not growing, it's
That'd
dying.
be my decision.
Well, sounds like everyone's made their decisions, so I don't know that we need the 2 weeks.
Fine.
I can't do anything without a motion. Either tell me to table it or tell me, and I'll give you an ordinance.
Anybody want to give a motion to?
I'll make a motion.
Pardon? No, it does, that's not, no,
Tabling is not a motion.
no, it is not.
action is on the floor.
He can't speak.
It's not an action that was required on the floor. Okay? Councilman Hittstill suggestion was we table it. Council said doesn't require a motion, so that's what's on there is the table it. Michael has indicated he agrees he's not ready to make a decision. Without putting words in his mouth, I believe that would be the same as tabling.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now what I need is a third to say, let's table it and we move on. If not, I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we continue with the moratorium. I just think people need to be able to get their sewers tanked, and we have to take care of the people who live here first.
I will second that motion.
Conversation, council. All in favor?
Aye.
No.
No.
Okay. 3-2. It passes. The city will prepare an ordinance. And the next question I have is what do we do with that were applied for in short term? Do we allow it, because if we do, again, we're just adding to it, okay, so.
Are we talking about the people that's already got them put in?
No, that's already
not
applied.
They're permitted.
No. The date that I'm using here was the first conversation started March 1st, okay? So those would be the only tanks that I would offer that you should consider. Again, not telling you or planting anything in your head, but you should consider. Because again, in another 2 weeks, it's gonna be another 26 tanks. And go on and on and on.
Well, the moratorium starts tonight,
Yes.
so those
But
26,
again,
those
but-
26 things should be allowed, in my opinion.
Okay. I would agree with that, so effective tomorrow, we'll no longer be approving anymore. And within the
Low pressure
ordinance,
sewer or
sewer, this would include, sewer tanks and low-pressure sewer systems. It would include water tanks and water meters, because of, again, what comes in's gotta go out. Now, the only thing I need from the council is the term of this moratorium. Do we want to wait? I mean,
we'll go 6 months and revisit.
6 months sounds like a good plan.
okay, we can do 6 months and revisit. Sounds like a perfect plan. At that particular time, I guess my question to the council is are you,
At that time.
at that point, do you, well, at that point, we were gonna see further down the road.
Yeah.
But do we want to, do you want me to continue with the KDHE research and bring in more and more experts to validate such decisions we make? I'm more than willing to, I've showed you time and time again, I'm more than willing to do the work. You know, so if that's what you would like for the two that wanted to table this, I'd be more than glad to, in this 6-month period, I'll try to provide that, more information.
I would suggest go ahead and get them here, and maybe they can offer something that would help the solution.
I would agree to that now, since we're doing the moratorium, that
Right.
they're gonna see we're actually,
Doing something
yeah.
that stops the
Okay.
problem.
But didn't you guys say if they come down here, they're gonna find stuff? We don't want them to find it?
Well,
The question is, do you want them to come down, or do you just want Solomon, that's who they're gonna call?
Yeah.
So, I don't know why we don't just have him and Paige get together and make a determination on what steps to take. That's just my opinion. I mean, because like I said, well, that, like the permit issue. You're supposed to follow the permit. What's the ramifications?
Yeah.
Normally, they don't do anything except try to help you.
Definitely
Doesn't
if
mean
you
they
get the
can't
wrong
do something.
person, they're just gonna enforce all of it.
You just don't know until they come, and that's,
Yeah.
it's a gamble.
Mike is the licensed company who makes our tanks for us, and he's constant, because of all the lake communities, you know what, he's constantly manufacturing tanks, you know, and as we're doing this, it's not from a shortage of tanks. But while we're still in this conversation, I see we have a POA member here. There's an RV parked down there by the old lift station over the weekend that I noticed, and I've noticed that I had been down there and I've asked people not to dump their sewage there. If the city provided a sign, would you post a sign there that, you know, to keep out, there's no dumping? Because I do believe people are going in there and dumping when they're not supposed to.
I can't speak for the entire board, but that seems like a reasonable request.
Okay.
So it's something that
Okay,
we
yes,
can
sir.
certainly discuss with the board.
Yes, sir. I just
I don't
suggested.
see a downside to posting that sign.
All right, thank you, sir. It was something I witnessed this weekend, it's something I witnessed before, and maybe they're just parked down there. I have no idea, but it just looks awful
Yeah, I see them
convenient.
sitting there.
It just looks convenient.
I brought it up a couple weeks ago to you that,
And that was the reason we quit using that lift station too, was because the smell, the appearance, trucks pulling in and out of there all the time, well, not to include it didn't work.
I was gonna say, we couldn't
You
keep it
know,
running.
and, you know what, that was part of helping us make those decisions, is that, you know what, that really doesn't work for the community. I don't think anybody would have meant for that to have stayed there. So, Jamie, is there,
260.
okay, the ordinance for this will be number 268. Jamie, do you have any recommendations legal toward the advice of the ordinance be set?
As far as what?
As far as we've covered what we don't want in the tanks, okay, and we've covered how long that the moratorium is gonna be. Do we have any other legal obligation to the letter of moratorium?
No, we probably need to put a penalty phase in there if we have to, but we'll work on that
Okay,
before the next setting, before we approve that actual document.
okay. Okay. Council, anything else? Thank everybody for.
Putting the moratorium in place without the ordinance written?
Actually, we're gonna prepare the moratorium, and upon preparation of it, he'll approve it tomorrow, and I'll hand it out to the council for proof. And it's
I just wanna make sure we're not getting the cart before the horse there.
No, I think, the last time you guys, in the last meeting, I was directed to prepare the ordinance. Okay? We had the ordinance number, but I knew it was changing, so the ordinance is not here to present, but we could have it prepared. We can have it prepared, Jamie. We can reestablish it and prepare it. How about we, Jamie, weigh in?
They're gonna have to approve the ordinance itself.
Okay,
Unless they're doing that tonight, so two options.
okay,
If you're gonna approve
good.
it blind, that's fine. If not, then you have to have a meeting for them to actually approve it. You can't send it out for them to respond and
Okay.
approve.
Will the council accept a special meeting to do that this week? Okay, we'll get it together and set a special meeting for later in the week. Okay? All right. As I move down to old business, City Hall, conversation. Anybody want to open it? What we're gonna do? So that everybody knows,
Well, we authorized the removal of
Yeah.
that building.
yeah, everything's good to go there. I'm just waiting to, basically what we're waiting from is a couple propane answers. The council's given me approval to remove the old building, not to exceed 10 grand. Rob Gifford, who came in with the lowest bid a year and a half ago at $8,500, has added $1,000 to it, which I think is reasonable, and to remove that, which is under $10,000. So I have the authority to sign that. We're just waiting for, what are we gonna do with the propane tank? We wanna prepare a resolution so we can try to get free dump for this condemnation. If we do a condemnation and do a resolution, the county will waive our dump fees for this. So at 3 30-yard dumpsters, I don't know what that cost comes to, but, you know, we're probably looking at $250, anywhere $750 to $900 for 3 30-yard dumpsters. So, you know, with that, we want to try to take advantage of everything we can. Bless you, sir. Okay. Any other conversation? Okay. Oh, I don't believe there's any new business. We have at this time public participation.
I have some new business.
Sir.
I was talking to Steve, and we have some habitual offenders when it comes to nuisance codes. Could we do the same thing for like we did for the dogs? The nuisance, people letting their dogs run loose, raise that fine?
Well, you stagger the fines?
Like
You
we did
can.
them
You
for
can create
habitual
something.
offenders.
Yeah.
somebody, you just keep going back to people over and over and over for the same thing.
Do we have to do that for every ordinance, or can we do that as a general application for the court?
I think you need to do it for each individual one. That's gonna get way too confusing. You need to do it all encompassing. I think that'll probably get struck down.
Too broad.
For the first meeting of the month, next month, let's pull that ordinance, and we'll provide that to the council to review and offer the changes like Michael Hemphill was suggested.
Also has small business. So when we get the new lagoons put in out here, we're gonna take away that $500 impact fee?
We should.
Yeah, this is what we need anymore.
Yeah, we should. You know, because we're now representing a water system and a new sewer system, so there's no longer an impact. And that was a suggestion also, is raising impact fees. Okay, so people could still bid if they had the money to build. That's how it works in other recreational communities. Take Hot Springs, Arkansas. Our low-pressure sewer system was built off of that model. Cost $20,000 to get a sewer. That's the impact fee in Hot Springs. Lake of the Ozarks, $90,000. They can't send a clear message they don't want you down there, but if you've got the money to spend, they'll let you come one and all. That doesn't change the growth of our community either, because you know what, we probably have several people who could meet those demands. You know, so just so that everybody knows that, thanks for bringing that up, Michael, because that was discussed.
Well, at first I was for the moratorium, I really was.
Mm-hmm.
But then the more of the community I talked to, they came up with different maybe solutions that we didn't have to go so hardcore, just say no. We could have some compromise, and that's what I was looking for, man.
Okay. Okay, and you know what I'll do? I'll reach out to the KDHE and we'll see what we can do.
Sure.
About maybe finding a solution that we can resolve this in 6 months.
And I'm not upset about the
I mean,
vote.
if it's 6 months, maybe the KDHE will come in and do something like this, will allow us to chemically add bioenzymes and stuff to it and let it eat itself alive. I doubt it, being we're a discharging lagoon system, but anything's possible.
We just started doing that again, didn't we? Her husband's doing it, adding that, whatever that stuff is.
Yeah, they're balanced, yeah, but they're not living enzymes type of treatment. You know, it's just a low-grade maintenance. Okay. At this particular time, we will allow the community to speak. I would, with that, we have.
Want me to read it?
No? Well, hear anybody that wants to speak. We'll have 3 minutes to address the council. Please step up to the podium. Speak your name and address, sign in at the podium. And the council, this is not for the council to respond. We're here to listen, sir. Go ahead.
I had a couple questions. One,
Your name, sir?
I'm sorry, Dennis Keegan. You talked about the negotiations on the mental health building, and I presume if you were able to quickly come to an agreement on that mental health building, that you would not issue a permit for 6 months on that building. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
Okay.
We couldn't build it in 6 months.
But you would have, well, you couldn't build it, but you would certainly have to issue the permit before you can start to build.
I'm sorry, sir. Please go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt your time.
And on the other, as far as possibly, I mean, I know you've already voted on it, but somewhat of a compromise as far as issuing a permit for some structures that would not allow the tanks themselves to go online prior to October 1st, when obviously we're busy. The most usage is between the 2 holidays. So if a tank wouldn't go online till after October 1st, your main usage would have slowed by then. So someone could begin to build their home, but yet not put the tanks online till after that point. That was the only 2 points I wanted to make.
I think both of them need to be taken into consideration, sir. Thank you very much. Also, Dennis, you're the new POA board president, isn't that correct?
Vice President.
Vice president, okay, thank you very much. Next, anybody else would like to step up and speak? Good, bad, indifferent, please have a voice.
I'm Shelley Burrier. I'm at 17 Deal Court, and I'm a full-time resident at Linn Valley. I also am the realtor that sells a lot of lots in Linn Valley. So obviously, this is going to make a big impact on what we do, because I have a number of people waiting for tonight's vote to know what they were going to do. I do appreciate that you put a 6-month limit on that, because I really would like to see us reevaluate that, because we're coming into the busiest season of the year to build and to buy lots and sell lots. I do think I would ask the council to figure out if there's anything else we can do. I know we're overloading it. I do not want to have to haul my excess waste somewhere either. And because I do live here, I want it to be, safe for every one of us. But I do hope that you'll consider some other alternatives. This is very devastating to have to shut it down completely. So, and I don't know what that is. I wish I could help answer that, but just please keep.
Experts didn't know what it is either, other than we're doing what's been recommended and suggested to us.
My understanding, though, is that this has been an issue for how many years we've been dealing with this, right? And yeah, and we are exponentially growing, and because people are finding out about our nice little secret down here. So, but I'm just asking.
Interact with them at all?
No, I'm sorry. Thank you.
I was wanting to interact with them. So.
I'm just asking that, yes, please do what you can to kind of keep because this is going to really detriment our community. And I chime in with Dennis. Could we do something to where they could begin the building process? Obviously, you have to have a sewer to move forward. That has to be part of the process. But could they break ground and start building on some things, just not put a sewer in? I don't know.
I think that's exactly what the moratorium represented. It didn't say building permits. It said we were gonna stop adding specifics.
The tanks.
Tanks, meters with specifics. So you could still build your house and prepare yourself for this, and when the moratorium lifts, again, I'm going to explain that this has not been an easy evening for anyone.
Right.
Not the legal department, not Jason Solomon, not the public that's had to sit here and listen to. Some of you might find this to be very boring. I'm sure some people do, but it's the energy that's behind a growing community.
Mr. Mayor,
Sir,
if I can interject here.
please do.
The big picture that the public doesn't see is someone was elected to this council, they've walked out of here now. Last year, they tried redesigning all the sewers. That's why BG, that man can tell you right there, they literally shut it all down. So if that person, that individual, would not have done what they did, we would already have lagoons going now. But that pushed the whole process back 8-12 months. So we've tried ever since I've been on this council, and even when I was up, we've tried to just kind of
Move it.
wiggle through and get to that end, but that destroyed a lot.
Well, and what's behind, that's water under the bridge, but as we move forward, to just do as proactive as we can
But
be.
we got to make decisions that's
Of course,
the best that we can. We don't want to hurt anybody,
right,
but we definitely don't want to hurt the people that
that are currently there. Yeah, I agree. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. Next, anyone else regarding lagoons? The moratorium. Rob?
My name is Rob Gifford. I do a lot of work out here.
I actually would like some input. If you have a full-time resident living in a camper, they have to have a holding tank, correct?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, there is a full-time resident living in a camper that was going to apply for his holding tank because he got a letter tomorrow. What are we gonna do with him? Anybody got any ideas? Is he gonna keep getting?
I can't speak on that behalf because I know the situation you're talking about, and so does the city attorney.
Right,
So that answer will provide for him. Well, actually, the moratorium won't go into effect until I call the special meeting.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so.
So he can still apply tomorrow?
Well, he can apply,
Hopefully.
but as we continue to, again, I'm not a gambler, but I'd wager a nickel. I'll wager you a nickel that before I can convene this council for a special meeting to confirm this ordinance, we're gonna have another 15 applications. Anybody wanna take me up on that nickel?
No, I would say you're probably right.
I'll double it, say it's gonna be 30 since we got, what?
But guys, I'm just saying.
27 after the last
But,
conversation?
yeah,
I'm just saying, and you're speaking of a situation, and I have to quit, that this just did not arise.
Okay,
Okay.
and I understand that.
Okay?
I'm just wondering what is gonna happen.
I'd
with that.
suggest, you should suggest to your homeowner or to your contract individual that he get up here to City Hall
And get his permit put in.
to get his application submitted.
Okay.
Again, until the council does anything, I can't tell them to stop taking applications or stop taking
Well,
payment
that's
or
kind of
them to
my
stop
question.
issuing permits.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm aware that the council wants to approve all the applications that have been submitted, which before I can convene this council, it's gonna be substantially more than this. So even though we're trying to managing this, because we're trying to be helpful, we're just impacting it more.
Right.
But you know what, again, no different than state legislature and House bills. We'd have to take the good with the bad.
Right.
You know, none of them House bills are all in what we want to agree to. You see, so this is the very same situation to where, you know what, not everybody's in agreement
Right.
at this particular point in time, so.
And I understand that. Thank you.
Thank you, Rev.
Anything else? Once, twice, okay, that portion of the meeting is over. I have nothing left here on the agenda unless the council has any new business that I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.